Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Very frigid. It's very cold, but otherwise good. How about you?
Pretty good. We took a break last week because I went down south to visit some family in Houston where it was not cold. But I have arrived back in the cold north, and here we are. It's like -3 out.
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording, and it was like very nice, sort of upper 30s or low 40s on Friday, and everybody was out and about in just sweatshirts because they're like, yeah, this is like suddenly feels like spring. And now, like a day later, it is bitterly cold.
Bitterly cold, but we do have, finally, we have our classic segment, Switch 2 Rumors, the Switch 2 Rumor Roundup, and we have a huge piece in that is not a rumor. We'll, of course, be talking about the Switch 2 announcement, short as it was, but before we get to that, which will be our main segment, we have some news of the week.
Yeah, it really seems like the next generation of consoles are not really going to be home consoles at all. It's going to be handhelds that maybe you can dock or something like that, sort of similar to the Switch. But the first piece of news here is that SteamOS is sort of expanding beyond the Steam Deck, and there are now going to be other like handheld PCs, gaming PCs, powered by SteamOS. And you're just going to have other companies making them, which seems to be, like, I think we talked about this on the last podcast, but Microsoft seems to be trying to go that direction too. And they also had some news about how they're working on a new version of Windows basically built for handheld PCs. So that definitely seems to be the direction everything's going.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is scrambling a little bit because,
yeah,
I mean, with SteamOS being, because we're seeing a lot of these handhelds right now, like the Legion Go at CES that just happened. There's been a ton of these types of like really big, like much bigger than a Steam Deck, high resolution handheld PCs, and they're all running Windows, obviously, because that's the only thing they can run. But now that you're going to be able to do SteamOS on other hardware, I think Microsoft is going to lose some market share. And they know that people don't want to... I mean, it's definitely very cumbersome, I think, to have Windows 11 on one of these handheld PCs because you have to, like, you know, click around and, like, click the start button and stuff. It's not made for mobile, but SteamOS is. And so I think they rightly assume that a lot of people will just skip out on Windows and start just loading SteamOS onto these things when they can. And so they're making some sort of new, like, mobile, maybe even gaming-focused version of Windows, but who knows when that's coming out.
Yeah, it's definitely Microsoft being, like, behind the eight ball a little bit. They have they waited too long. I think it would not surprise me at all if the next, like, PlayStation and the next Xbox sort of quote unquote console was just like a handheld that you could dock similar to the Switch, but like beefier to be sort of Steam Deck like. But they should have been working on like a sort of a handheld friendly version of Windows before, you know, just this year or last year thinking about, you know, SteamOS and how all of that was progressing. But
I mean, by all accounts, the PlayStation Portal is a big success. Like, people love it. I've never seen someone say... The only review I've ever seen of a PlayStation Portal is someone being like, I don't know why I would buy this. And then they buy it, and they're like, this actually is very good. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I like mine. I don't use it that much because I'm usually at home when I'm going to play games, and I would rather not deal with any sort of latency. I'm just going to play it on my TV. But it is cool. It like has, because it's not really doing any of the heavy lifting, it has much better battery life than like a Steam Deck or a Switch. And it, like, the screen looks great, and I do like the DualSense. So having like sort of a slightly smaller version of a DualSense as your controller is also great. Yeah, and if it was a little bit beefier and you could actually run a game directly off the system itself, I feel like that would be a solid next generation PlayStation.
I agree.
They could make. But speaking of next generation consoles, the next Xbox is rumored to launch in 2026 with the next Call of Duty. Did you see this?
Yes.
It came out a couple weeks ago, I think, but
I was of the mind, I thought that stuff was going to be, the next generation was going to start in 2027. But so it was surprising to me to learn that the rumor is 2026 is when the next consoles will be coming out.
And from this leak, it sounds like they are planning a normal console and a handheld, and they're going to release like maybe a year apart from each other, which seems like an odd strategy, but maybe they still think there's a market for like the standard home console, and then do a handheld on top of that. I don't know. It seems strange to me, but
it's reportedly called the Xbox Prime. And I really hope they like fix their naming scheme this time around, because having all the series I feel like is not working for them.
Yeah.
So hopefully
it is a bad naming convention.
I hope they ditch that and they now just call this like, I mean, Xbox Prime is not bad actually, if the code name becomes the real name. But I don't want this to be called Xbox Series Z or something.
Yeah. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but like Switch 2 makes so much sense.
I agree.
I think we really are getting to a point where it's basically sort of phone iteration, that's what they're doing with consoles now. You're not going to have this situation where they abandon all the last generation games and you just have a completely new self-contained generation that has only stuff that runs on that, and you can't, carry your games forward to the next generation. We're going to have this situation where we're going to go, they've found the right, device, basically, and they don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. And so they can do Switch 1, Switch 2, Switch 3, and all of the stuff carries forward. And so now we're into more of a, you're getting the next iPhone when the next console comes out.
All your apps will transfer.
Right. And so with Xbox, their naming convention is so all over the place. They didn't just go the simple route of, Xbox 2, Xbox 3, because they were like, oh, our numbering system is off. We're behind PlayStation because we started after them. And so they tried to go this weird route. And now I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to just have to, I don't know, call it something like Xbox Prime, I guess. But
as long as it's not Series something, I'll be happy, I think.
I mean, they did it with Windows. They jumped 9 and went to 10. So maybe they just jump, what are we on? 5 and go to Xbox 6 when the next PlayStation comes out. And you go, oh, okay.
I don't hate that. I would be into it.
Other Xbox related news or Microsoft related news, I guess, the rumored Oblivion remake could come out as early as June.
I saw a lot about this. That was earlier this week. All of a sudden, I got on my YouTube recommendations a lot of people being like, take a look at this. This is confirmed. This leak is crazy. I have to say, I am excited about this. I have a little more nostalgia for Oblivion than I do for Skyrim, just because it was the first Elder Scrolls game I ever played. I don't know about you, but it's supposed to be an Unreal Engine 5, which so it's not an HD remaster. They say it's a complete from the ground up remake with new mechanics, and I don't know exactly. I think that Bethesda is. I don't know if there's a third party that's making this or what, but I gotta say, I'm pretty excited for this. Yeah,
it says they referenced reworking the 6 gameplay systems, so stamina, sneaking, blocking, archery, hit reaction, and HUD, and they have a new blocking system that is supposedly inspired from Souls-like games. That's gonna sort of replace the old system.
Interesting.
And I a little bit wonder how much this informs what they're doing with Elder Scrolls 6.
It's a good question. I really hope they took some lessons. I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but Starfield, I think, was good in a lot of ways, but also I hope marked the end of an era in a lot of ways because they really need to make some changes. And maybe they're test running these on the Oblivion remake. I'll be interested to see because I feel like I've said this 1,000 times, but if in the next Elder Scrolls game I click a door and then it goes to a loading screen before I get into the building, that's not going to be great for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see this remake because I will definitely play it. I think it's awesome that they're doing it. And I also, like, I've thought about it before as well. As many times as they have remastered and re-released Skyrim, I feel like we're a few years away from them doing a full-blown, from the ground up remake of it for modern hardware, and that would be awesome if they are able to like update it to Unreal Engine 5 and they're able to or whatever the next Unreal Engine is that we're working on in the next console generation. But just to have something that is basically the same game as Skyrim, but it operates like a modern game and doesn't feel like a game from the 360 generation still.
It would be nice if they fixed the inventory system for sure. That's like the main thing I always hated about Skyrim was basically just having an alphabetized list for everything where you didn't even... I mean, you got to look at them as pictures, but...
Right.
I mean, that when I played it on PC, that was the first mod I always installed, is like a fixed inventory system where it looked a lot nicer and was easier to navigate. It wasn't... Because the problem was... Skyrim was built for consoles first, I think. So everything was based on like how would you do this with a controller as opposed to with a mouse and keyboard. And I think that was a limiting factor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if they completely overhauled the menu system and
I hope so.
Inventory and all of that for even the remake of Oblivion, because I don't remember what the menus and inventory system was like in that game.
It was I feel like it was nicer because it was that like everything looked like it was on a parchment scroll, and you had those big beefy sliders that you could turn around. Oh, I also wonder if they're going to fix but change the conversation system, because I could never figure that out. There was that weird rainbow wheel that would spin around. Do you remember that for the talking to people, the speech system?
Oh yeah.
I never got a handle on exactly how that worked. And I also never really invested in speech, so it wasn't something I had to deal with a lot. But there's some good stuff in Oblivion. Like you become, you get that mask and you become that thief. Do you remember that quest line? Shadow Fox or something like that?
Vaguely. I get them mixed up, the different like guild quest lines from Oblivion and Skyrim. I
think that the Thieves Guild in Oblivion is much better because there's like a master thief you're always seeing about, and then you meet him and it turns out that he has like, I guess spoilers for Oblivion, but he has this mask, this weird helmet that he puts on that makes him unrecognizable to people, and eventually you get that. So you can like put it on and everyone is like, who are you? Even though you were just talking to them, which is a cool thing to mess around with. And then also the final thing in the Thieves Guild is you steal an Elder Scroll, which is very cool. But I don't really, I mean, what's the one in Skyrim? You're like hang out in Riften a bunch. I don't even remember what the final thing in that is. I think you get that cool lockpick that never breaks, but...
Yeah, and you can choose whether to turn that in or not, but everybody just keeps it.
Oh yeah, you got to keep it.
There's some like cool armor and stuff you get from that quest line, I remember, but yeah, I always like the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood quest line in Skyrim, but I don't remember the ones from Oblivion as well because it's been much longer, and I think I only played that once, whereas Skyrim I've played like a handful of times at least. Yeah. But
I'm into it. I'm excited for it.
It'll be interesting to revisit for sure, especially once they've sort of updated all the graphics and controls and everything.
I wonder if we'll get a reveal for this at the Summer Games Fest. I wonder if this will be something that Keighley shows on stream.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll show up if this rumor is right that it's gonna come out, sometime this summer.
Big news out of Sony. is our final news segment before we get to the Switch 2. Concord really flipped the script for them. And there was some reporting this week that because of the huge flop that was Concord, they canceled 2 big-name live service games, including they were making a live service God of War game that they have now realized correctly was a bad move.
I can't even think of what it would be like.
I was thinking about this and like, what is a God of War live service game? What does it look like? Obviously, I would think you wouldn't be Kratos, so it would just be maybe in the world. I don't really know what it would be because, like, you think it would be. Know. I can't imagine what it would be.
And is it like old sort of God of War setting or the duology setting?
I think it would definitely be set in Norse times.
Or jump forward to whatever the next one is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess a little bit of a bridge to the next game. This seems so ill-conceived. I can't figure out what type of game this would be.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. It's like Concord really shifted. It's like Sony was going full in on live service games, and now they have kind of backed off of that.
Yeah, I remember I think it was when they got Bungie. They were like, here's an outline of our future plans for exclusive games. We want to go all in on live service stuff, and Bungie knows how to do it because they make Destiny. And we have, like, I think part of that was also like some mobile game developer, and they know how to do mobile stuff. And so Sony was like, yeah, we're all in on live service stuff. And like Helldivers worked, and then Concord crashed and burned so hard that they were like, yeah, we can't risk another one of these. Because what was that, like $400 million down the drain?
It was in development for like 4 or 5 years.
I think longer than that. I think it was in development for like 6 years. And then you've got, we knew that they were working on a Last of Us multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And Bungie's working on Marathon. And it's just like, if they had another disastrous Concord level flop, I mean, I that might be it for them.
It is crazy. I feel like the rush to live service was years ago. Destiny happened and people were like, oh, this is the type of thing that can happen. And then it didn't work for a bunch of people. Famously, Anthem ended up not working out for people. And then I thought it was kind of dying down, but then we had like Redfall happen, which, these are pretty consistently not working out. So I feel like people need to, the draw of it is like executives being like, oh, we can continue to charge for something over and over again. But it's hard to do that and make a good game, I think.
Yeah, they don't realize that these don't, like, the number of ones that hit with audiences and become big cash cows is much smaller than the number that gets made. And I remember thinking when Sony sort of started unveiling their plans for they had like a list of, I don't remember the number, but they were planning a bunch of live service games. And I remember even at that time thinking, I thought this was dying down, and now you're doubling down on it. It seemed ill-conceived at the time, and now we're sort of seeing the sort of other side of it, where they're having to try to regroup and stop whatever this plan was.
At least they are doing that. They're realizing the feedback and course correcting. So hopefully this will be a good thing.
No, I don't know that it's true or not, but I've heard that there has been like a disconnect from Western Sony, like Sony America or whatever, and Sony, Japan, and they have different visions for where things are going, basically. And I think Western Sony had a couple of hits, and they were like, okay, we're going to give you some more breathing room. We're going to let you sort of take the wheel a little bit on some of our strategy. And they sort of pushed this and it has not worked out for them. And I think Sony Japan is maybe tightening the belt a little bit and saying, all right, you guys messed this up, and we're going to take a little bit more control, and we're going to shift back to what we do best, which is more single player RPG stuff.
That would be great.
But I don't know if that's true. That's just the word on the street, rumor, that there was a big disconnect between Western Sony and Eastern Sony and what they wanted, their vision for the future of the company. But
well, something that is no longer a rumor. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. We got a leak or a rumor confirmation from, I think it was a guy named like Nate the Hate, who is supposedly an insider. He said an announcement of the announcement on Wednesday, and then the real announcement on Thursday. And the thing on Wednesday did not happen, but they did finally officially announce the Switch 2 on Thursday with a very brief video. What did you think, Zach? We can finally start talking about the Switch 2 as the Switch 2 because that is what it's called.
Yeah, they didn't go Super Nintendo Switch, but as we talked about when it comes to doing more of a phone sort of iterative update, every few years, but keeping sort of the software going, that I think makes a lot of sense to name it Switch 2. But I thought it looks cool, but yeah, all the rumors, all the leaks ended up being true, more or less.
They did seem to confirm. There was a part of because the big rumor is that the Joy-Cons can be used as mice. And it did seem to confirm there is like it looks like there's a little laser thing in the middle, like in the interior of the Switch.
There's
Joy-Con.
a little optical sensor.
And there's a part where they are down, they're being used, they're kind of like racing around as mice on a desktop, which seems to confirm to me that is true, which I think is a really cool idea.
I have questions about it. Like, if you're thinking of this as like a traditional home console, are you just meant to like set it down on your coffee table? Like, what's the scenario where this is going to be useful?
It's a good question. I wonder if they're going to sell some sort of Switch brand, Nintendo branded like mouse pad or something like that. But I mean, I primarily play Balatro on my computer with a mouse and keyboard. But I would love to play it on the television, and I don't really want to use a controller to do that. And so to be able to use a mouse on the TV, I think is something that no one has really gotten correct yet, or even tried to do. I saw a tweet from Kyle Hilliard over at MinMax where he was talking about how great an idea this is, because, I mean, when kids are watching streamers, most streamers are playing like Fortnite and stuff on computers with mouse and keyboard, but it's hard to get your parents to like buy a full gaming PC for you to do that. And so, the way you're playing Fortnite is like maybe on your phone or on a console with a mouse or a controller. But this will allow them to do basically what they always see people doing on Twitch, which is use a mouse and keyboard basically, just like the Twitch streamers they watch. And also, frankly, I would love to play games like Curse the Golden Idol and stuff with a mouse. It really opens stuff up.
It makes me wonder if they will sell like a Nintendo branded keyboard that you can like maybe Bluetooth to the Switch or something. But I mean, they haven't shown that, but or I wonder if you're meant to use both of them, like one side is doing something and the other side is doing something else. I don't know.
I was thinking about this. I played, I don't remember what the subheading for it was. Maybe it was just called Tomb Raider. Whatever, I think there was that Tomb Raider, the first Tomb Raider that came out that was like the new version of Tomb Raider. The one that Conan O'Brien played, where you can like die in horrible ways. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's a great Clueless Gamer where he plays a Tomb Raider game, and it's the one that I think it's maybe came out in 2016. And if you mess up doing jumps and stuff, they animated in Lara Croft dying in terrible ways. It's very funny to watch that Clueless Gamer. But anyway, that's the one that I played on my computer. I bought it on Steam, and there were parts where I played it on controller, and you finally get like a bow and arrow, and I realized I could still use my mouse and the controller at the same time. So there were segments where I was holding my controller with my left hand and using the mouse to look around and aim. and it was pretty intuitive, actually. I liked to do it. It gave me a high degree of like sensitivity to like aim the bow and do like precise movement. And so I don't think it's a terrible idea to have the left Joy-Con just be a Joy-Con, or like you can move the, analog stick, and the right one you're using as a mouse. But I don't know if they will say that's what they want you to do, or if they will sell some other peripheral. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Here's something else. Here's something we've never done before. 2 mice at the same time. What do you think about that?
I know, that's what I was thinking of, like how awkward it would feel in my brain to be using 2 mice at the same time.
I don't even know what that would be like.
I think you would have to have one just be like a Joy-Con where your movement is tied to the thumbstick, and then you're using the other one like a mouse, and you're looking around with that. Because you can't, you don't have a mouse where is tied to movement, because that would be super awkward.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It's interesting to think about, for sure.
It really opens up, I think, for really interesting indie games, especially like couch co-op games. I think it would be interesting. I can't even conceptualize. I mean, I feel like it'd be a cool thing to have a game where both of you have mice that you're using on a TV to do something. But I don't know what that would be even, but you would be clicking around and stuff. Very interesting. Something we're not talking about is the Joy-Cons are bigger now.
They showed it expands their sort of graphic. They show like a normal Joy-Con for the Switch one, and then it sort of grows in size, and the buttons and the thumbsticks get bigger. But hopefully they've solved the drift. I never really experienced it, but
I never did either, because I mostly used a Pro controller. But I also wonder if Pro controllers are going to work.
Yeah, how does the Pro controller work? If is it going to have an optical sensor and you slide that thing around?
Great question. Another big takeaway from this is they did show like it uses the same cartridges as the Switch. So not only is it backwards compatible for digital content, you can plug your old Switch cartridges in and they'll work just like the classic Switch.
Yeah, which is a good move. And I thought about, as far as like the mouse feature goes, I mean, they could maybe sell like an actual, like instead of a Pro controller, they'll probably have a Pro controller, but what if they also had a Pro mouse?
Now that's interesting. That actually, I did not consider that, and that's very cool, because I will say I'm into this a lot. I think it's very cool, but I wonder how it will feel to turn the Joy-Con sideways and click the bumper as your left click. Yeah. I don't know if that will feel good. Maybe they've engineered it to feel good, but if they sold a Nintendo mouse, I think that would be awesome.
I'm sure there'll be like third parties that will do that, but if you had an officially licensed like Nintendo one, that would be cool, because they do put out games like Civilization or something like that, where it would make sense to have a mouse, and before that you just had to use clunky controls for a game that is clearly designed to be used for mouse and keyboard. So maybe I feel like this is something we've talked about in the past, where you would like to have PlayStation and Xbox and Switch as well be able to just like connect a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and play games that way. And I think some games do let you do that, but very few. And so I always wondered if maybe that was like a thing that they would all start doing in like the next console generation, is start making a push to be more PC-like, where you can actually use either controller or mouse and keyboard. And some games will be designed to play better with a controller, and others would be designed to play better with a mouse and keyboard. And maybe Nintendo building a Joy-Con that can literally be used as a mouse is the sort of catalyst to make that happen. But
I also wonder, because I mean, first-party Nintendo games always take advantage of everything that the console has to offer. Like Mario Odyssey, I think, was ideally supposed to be played with the Joy-Cons, not with a Pro controller, because you could do that thing where like the way you threw your hat, if you had both the Joy-Cons, it was much easier to do with the Joy-Cons as opposed to the Pro controller, where you had to like do that thing where you slip to the side, or you kind of like run with them to do a roll or whatever. So I wonder if the next mainline Mario game will in some way incorporate using a mouse sometimes, which is wild to me. I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, I mean, they're always good at sort of creating innovative things with their consoles and with their games. So I'm very curious to see what they have in store for that particular feature.
The big thing we're not really talking about, though, is they did not confirm that this is a feature. They have just sort of hinted that, hey, these might be mice. Because, frankly, the video we got was like only like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Not really any narration. We didn't get the cool reveal trailer we were hoping for, like with the Switch, where it was like a 5-minute video with a really cool song, and people were using the Switch in different places. That I think is happening in April. They have said, I think, was it April 2nd is when we're going to get the big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which is a little bit of a bummer. We're going to have to wait a couple of months. So that we'll have lots to say on that. But the only other thing they kind of revealed, there's maybe like 15 seconds of what everyone thinks is new footage from a new Mario Kart game. What did you think of this Mario Kart footage? Not a lot to glean.
Yeah, not a lot there, but it does look like it's going to be 24 racers as opposed to 12.
Yes.
That was sort of the big takeaway from what was shown. I think some people did do like side-by-sides of like the visuals of the game versus Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch, and it does look like graphically improved.
And Donkey Kong looks different. Donkey Kong looks more like his movie variant.
Version,
you can tell it in the eyes.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. I a little bit thought, this would have been footage of like Metroid Prime 4 and that would have been the launch game, but they're going Mario Kart, which I guess makes a little bit more sense because everybody could enjoy Mario Kart, and Metroid Prime 4 is like Metroid, as much as people love it, is a little bit more niche. So I think it makes more sense to have something like Mario Kart be your launch title. That's not to say that Metroid Prime 4 couldn't also be a launch window game, but
I wonder if you can play Mario Kart with mouse and keyboard.
That would be interesting. I can't even imagine what it would be like, I guess.
It is a bummer we have to wait until April. Although I didn't put this in the show notes, but separate to this, there is supposedly a new theory that we're going to get news about Silksong on April 2nd, which is coincidentally the Switch 2 Direct. So that's interesting.
I was going to say, I was going to make a prediction that when they sort of do their reveal of this, that they would also sort of announce that Silksong was going to come out as like a launch window title for Switch 2, even though it's going to be on everything else as well, but it would be like one of the first games we're likely to play on Switch 2.
Let's talk about this. So the Direct for the Switch 2 is going to be April 2nd. What's your prediction for the launch date?
That's tough. So it does appear as though this January reveal was sort of this begrudging, okay, everybody knows everything about this already. Let's just send something out there so that we control the story and this is us showing our thing. But I would have thought that this reveal would have been that trailer, like the Switch 1 trailer, where it was like this long reveal where they show people using the console in various situations. I guess they had a little bit more to reveal with that one because nobody had seen a console like that before, whereas we kind of know what the Switch is at this point. So this is just like an iterative update. So they didn't necessarily have to get the point across that, hey, you can take this to your local park, and while you're watching your friends play basketball, you can play on your Switch.
God, what a good trailer that was.
But yeah, they don't necessarily have to do that for this, but I thought it would be April would have been like a good launch time for this, but it turns out that's when they're going to do like the full Direct on it. So I don't know, maybe early summer would would they do it in like June, like right around Summer Games Fest?
It's a good question. That's obviously my hope. Sooner the better. But I wonder if they would push it to like September for for the fall.
That's the thing is the fact that it's not going to be the full direct until April almost makes me afraid that they're going to wait until the fall to launch it.
Yeah.
And I almost think that's a bad decision because I mean, maybe I don't know what their lineup of games is for this year, but like, what are they going to launch in the spring and people are going to actually buy it? Because
I heard a rumor that we're going to get a direct sooner than April 2nd, but it's only going to be focused on Switch 1 games.
Yeah, it's weird.
As kind of like a last hurrah for the Switch 1 or something.
I guess you can, go ahead and buy that stuff knowing that it's going to still be playable on Switch 2, but...
That's true. I mean, you can just take the cartridges and plug them into the Switch 2.
But I feel like there's always that period of time where it's so late in the life cycle where people see a new game come out and they're like, well, I'm not even going to buy that because I'm going to wait for Switch 2 or wait for the next console or whatever the case may be. But I also am very curious. So there was like a screen in the trailer where it was like, not all games will come to or be compatible with Switch 2. Like, which ones and why not is the question. But you were suspecting that it would probably be stuff like Labo or Ring Fit or something that has like a peripheral that...
Well, yeah, because I don't think it has the IR blaster or whatever on the bottom of the Joy-Con.
I thought there was one or something that looked like it could be an IR
Maybe
blaster.
there is, but if that's not there, then Labo would not work. Ring Fit regardless is not going to work because Ring Fit, you have to click the Joy-Con into the ring. And Joy-Cons no longer slide in there; they now are magnetized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I think it does make sense that if there's it relies on some sort of peripheral that was built to work with the first gen Joy-Cons, it would not work. But yeah, so I'm curious if they will have like a list of games that is compatible or isn't compatible or something like that. But we didn't even talk about the fact that it's a larger screen.
Bigger screen, a better kickstand as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the one on the OLED, but instead of it being like this full like piece of plastic that just slides out, it is more like a cutout that you sort of, I guess, kickstand.
And it's variable as well. They kind of showed it leaning back onto it, so it's not a thing where it's like position 1, position 2. It seems like you can kind of push it down and it will set to any specific angle, which is nice.
Yeah, that's like the OLED one.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, so they did that with the OLED one, and it's very nice. And this is basically the same thing, except instead of it being like a full flap of plastic that slides out, it is just like it's like a cutout kickstand.
The dock also, it seems thinner. There's kind of a sideways shot of the dock when it clicks in the thing, and the Switch 1 dock is kind of like not bulky, but it definitely has like a kind of a square if you look at it from the side, whereas this one seems very slim. So I don't know if all of the components are like underneath where you click it in now. Oh, here's something else we didn't talk about. It's got 2 USB-C ports. So if you want to charge your Switch 2 from the top or the bottom, you can do that, which is really great. Or maybe that allows you to charge 2 peripherals at once. Or, I mean, there's any number of things that will allow you to have 2 charging ports. So
yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if that enables them to do like some interesting, like when you have the system docked, you can like plug something into the top of it.
Well, speaking of being docked, we saw some leaks a couple of weeks ago that I don't know if they were true or not, where the dock is like lower on the screen. Like when you dock it, you can now see more of the screen. The leaks that we saw made that look like way bigger, like the gap way bigger, where you could see like they had like little Bowsers running around on the screen when it was in idle mode. This one, I mean, there is more room where you can maybe see stuff, but I don't know if that was just someone's mock-up or not. I kind of think that that's not happening now because it doesn't seem like there's enough room above where the dock ends for there to be like little animations, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, they didn't show it, and maybe that's something they're holding back for like the full direct, but it does seem like there's more space than on the first gen Switch. And I mean, maybe they could have like some sort of animation running on that, but maybe they're just like, people just stuff this behind the TV and never look at it again. So we don't need to worry about trying to add some sort of feature to it. But,
I think it probably
would
confirms,
be cool,
though, that the original dock will not work with the Switch 2, though.
Yeah, I never thought it would, but I guess it's true. It does sort of. And the Switch is bigger too, so I mean,
true.
It probably would not. They showed the original Switch versus the Switch 2. I wonder how it shapes up against an OLED Switch.
Good question.
I mean, still larger probably, because I feel like the OLED Switch is more or less the same size as the original Switch. It just has less bezel, but yeah, I'd be curious to see the two side by side, which I'm sure we'll get. The trailer also has like, they're doing these like, come look at it events for different people in like different parts of the world, which obviously we're not going to be able to go to, but they're hands-on events, and I'm sure we'll get a ton of videos dropping once those events start happening.
The other mystery that is still unanswered is there is a mysterious button on the right Joy-Con that I think has the letter C on it.
So it did in the leaks and rumors, but if you look at the trailer, the C is not there. And so we're curious as to whether that was removed or if that's something that will have a C eventually on when they do like their actual direct, and for whatever reason they're hiding it for this reveal. But yeah, that was one of the curious things where everybody was like, there's a C button. What does it do? And if you play back this first look trailer, there's a square button there that does not have any sort of indicator as to what it is.
Interesting. I saw speculation that it could be some sort of capacitive touchpad, a very small one, or like a fingerprint reader. But I don't know if Nintendo would do something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah. And why on only one Joy-Con? Because
great question.
You should be able to use both of them individually. But yeah, it's oddly placed, though. I feel like I will accidentally hit the home button every time I go to reach for that. But I'm curious to see what it does, I guess. Especially, maybe it's... I was going to say, maybe it's just the capture button like you have on the other Joy-Con, so that you could do all the features with one Joy-Con if you were playing that way. But then you would have to also add a home button to the other side. And they did not do that. So I don't know.
They really went out of their way to not reveal stuff, I feel like, in this trailer.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they were holding back because they were like, we're not ready to show all this yet. We want it to be for the full direct, but everybody knows most everything about this already. And so we're begrudgingly just going to throw this out there. All right, here's all the stuff you saw in the leaks confirmed, but we're still holding back a lot of stuff.
I did see one other person speculating that they did this so that third parties can start announcing games for the Switch too. Because now it's officially called. They no longer. I don't remember what it was. Was it?
Yeah. What was that game that we talked about?
It was some game where they were just like coming to like
multiple
Nintendo.
It was the remake of, not Banjo-Kazooie, Yooka-Laylee.
Yes, you're right. They were like just coming to Nintendo and not Nintendo Switch. So now people can be like, yeah, this is coming out for Nintendo Switch too. Yeah,
I guess that makes sense, but I'm so curious. I want to see a Pro controller, a second-gen Pro controller, and I want to see like what the launch lineup is going to be. Actually, we have in our show notes here a little list of games reportedly set to release on the Switch 2. This is from, I guess, IGN put this article up, but they were referencing Nate the Hate, who was the leaker of all this stuff. But supposedly, Square Enix is going to release Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on Switch 2, with Remake coming out in 2025 and Rebirth coming in 2026. Anything else you see in here that is interesting to you?
Metal Gear Solid Delta is interesting to me. You know, there was a big rumor that the Halo Master Chief Collection was going to come to PlayStation and Nintendo in 2025, and I don't know if that is actually true, but speculation is that Microsoft is just pulling the ripcord, and Halo will be available on all consoles.
That's crazy.
I will be interested to see if that is actually true.
It's going to be like looking if you saw Mario on a PlayStation console. It's just crazy to me.
That is the biggest one where I was like, what? But I mean, maybe. Metal Gear Solid Delta is interesting to me. I've never fully played a full Metal Gear Solid game except for the very short one that's a prequel to, I think I played the Phantom Pain because it's like a very short thing. But I think I'm more interested in watching someone play Metal Gear Solid Delta as opposed to playing it.
Yeah, I thought about that too. When we did our most anticipated games, I considered putting that game on my list, but I was like, am I actually going to play it or am I going to watch it is the real thing. But yeah, supposedly that game is rumored, according to Nate the Hate, is going to launch day and date on Switch 2, or it could anyway. But
very interesting.
Ubisoft's going to release some Assassin's Creed Shadows games and possibly Rainbow Six Siege. They're also, I guess, going to do like a 2-for-1 package to port the Mario Rabbids games to Switch 2, even though I suppose you could probably play them anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess doing a new re-release for the Switch 2 that has both of them bundled together, I guess that makes sense. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024?
That's crazy to me.
That is, I don't know about that one. That's included in this list, but that seems ambitious.
We'll have to wait until April 2nd, unfortunately. But I'm sure we'll be talking all about it at that point. Should we move on to what we've been playing and watching?
Yes. So it looks like you got a bunch of stuff on here.
Zach, I went down to Houston last weekend. That's why we didn't record. And I went to a movie theater. I watched Gladiator 2.
Oh, yeah? How was it?
It was fine. But what's more interesting is I've never been to a movie theater, and maybe this is the case with all theaters now. The concession stand was like a cafeteria style, which I had never seen before. So like you walk in and it's not a thing where you go up to a counter and you're like, this is what I want. They now just have like
sort of food court style.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so there's like pre-made boxes of popcorn under heaters, and like there's like a hot dog section and nacho section. You kind of just pick up what you want and you pick up a cup, and then you like buy it all at a cash register, and then you go to like a freestyle machine to get like a soda or whatever you want. But I had never experienced that before. I don't know if that's like a new thing that AMC is doing. Have you seen that before?
Not in an AMC, but I've been to like theaters that have like, you can get like different types of beer and stuff, and probably food as well. And then they just have like a little seating area so you can like, I guess, eat before you go into the movie. And sometimes that type of theater will also like, you'll order your food and then they'll come and deliver it like during the movie.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I've seen that before, but
I also want to talk about two things I have watched. Zach, are you familiar with the British television show Portrait Artist of the Year?
No.
This has been going on for a while, I guess. But I was hanging out with my grandma last week, and she was like, this is a new show I like to watch. And I watched it, and I was like, this is a really good show. It's it's all on Prime. There's like 10 seasons on Prime. But basically what it is I think it's 9 people. They get 9 people all from all around England, and they get 3 subjects that they're going to make portraits of. And so they're kind of divided into 3 groups, and then you sort of just watch them all paint portraits of this person. And they all have like totally different styles, and you get to watch their techniques and stuff over the course of like 40 minutes. And then each celebrity gets to pick their favorite, and then the judges pick a favorite, and then they move on, and then eventually there's a grand prize where you get to like do a portrait for the like London Portrait Gallery or whatever it's called. But as far as like wallpaper television goes, where you're just like putting something on in the background, this is a really, really good show. Especially even if you want to watch it just to watch it, it's like not wallpaper. It's like really interesting to watch people paint.
Yeah, it's like what's his name, Bob Ross.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the joy of painting. But I recommend this show. It's very cool, and it really makes you want to paint.
I probably actually will check this out because I do have Prime, and I love a British TV show. So
I have not watched the early seasons. We kind of started in the middle because that's where my grandma was watching. So I don't know if it like changes throughout the series, but yeah, it's like really relaxing to watch, I have to say.
I like something. I like wallpaper TV, as you put it. So I'm all about just being able to throw something on in the background while I'm like doing other stuff. So
I also watched a movie called Swing Girls. Have you heard of that?
No.
This movie that came out in 2004. It's a Japanese movie. It's about a group of delinquent girls in high school who get into playing jazz music. And it's very good, I think. I liked it a lot, actually. And they're actually playing in the movie. I did a little research, and they like... I thought there was a sequel to this movie called Swing Girls First and Last Performance. But in fact, that is just a live performance that they did and recorded, which is cool. They're like really playing the instruments in the movie. But yeah, Swing Girls I would check out as well. It's a little bit harder to find than it's not on Prime. But these are two recommendations that I have. And then I've also briefly been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I have not played a lot of it. I'll have more to talk about probably next week.
I was going to say, I'm very excited to hear your impressions, even early impressions, but I
like it a lot. I forgot almost entirely what the combat system was, so I'm having to relearn that a little bit.
Yeah.
I've learned the necessity of using the assess materia. I was just kind of like blindly fighting for the first couple of matches, but man, when that music hits, there's that part very early on where they do that orchestral version of what was the world map music in Final Fantasy VII. It gets you, and I'm excited for that to happen a lot more. I'm considering playing on like super easy mode because I really just want to hear like the story of it.
I was going to say,
so far
I a little bit recommend playing it on the easy mode because I was stubborn and forced myself to play it through on the normal mode, and I got super frustrated with the combat at different times. Like sometimes it was fine and I would like power through and it was no problem at all, and then there were other times there were just like specific enemies that caused me trouble. I think that every time I encountered them it was very frustrating, and I'm sure somebody who is much better and much more like understanding of the different mechanics of like how combat works that got like super deep dive into it that could have like, I don't know, gotten through it super easy, but for whatever reason I did not enjoy the combat of that game. But as you say, like then right after that a big musical cue would happen, and like this big like story moment with the different characters would happen, and it would just be like, oh, this is like great stuff, addicted to this, want more of it. And then I would go back to combat and be like, ugh, why is this happening? And then you'd have like the open world stuff, which I'm curious to hear your impressions of. I think early on it's fine, and you're like, yeah, this is great, I'm totally into this, I'm gonna do all of it. And then like by hour 30 you're like, I can't take any more of this. But
I'll report back.
I'm very curious. The only stuff I've been playing over the last like week or two since we last recorded is more Marvel Rivals, because they are in season 1 now, and so they've added 2 of the Fantastic Four characters, the Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic, and the other 2 are coming later on in the season. I don't know when, but at some point. And yeah, it's been fun. I am unlocking stuff and having a fun time playing it, doing all the different challenges that pop up. So like they have like your daily, weekly, and season long challenges that unlock for you to work on, and you're sort of unlocking different cosmetic items and things like that. And it's just a fun game to play. It is getting me back into the sort of very team-based multiplayer game, and they'll throw like some interesting modes in there as well. I guess it's not really that different from the core like quick play stuff, but they have like a new map and like maybe a slightly different twist on sort of the core gameplay element. But they have like Levolution a little bit as well. Not quite as much as like
I've seen that where you can like destroy parts of the map.
Yeah, and it will eventually like regenerate, which is weird to me, but you can like destroy parts of the map and it will like cause you to be able to go in different directions that you couldn't before, which is interesting to me. But yeah, I've been enjoying that, and I dipped my toes into Mario Galaxy. So if you remember, we had that Super Mario 3D All-Stars or whatever that came out on Switch.
Yeah.
And I still have that downloaded on my Switch. And I was like, I was thinking about Switch 2 and Mario Odyssey, and I was like in the mood to play some Mario stuff for some reason. And I thought about jumping back into Odyssey and playing that again. And then I was like, oh, I do have this 3D All-Stars thing on my Switch, and I've never played the Mario Galaxy games. Maybe I should play that because everybody is like over the moon about the Mario Galaxy games. And so I started playing some of that, and it's enjoyable enough, but I don't love the motion stuff.
Yeah, the motion stuff is not great.
So I a little bit don't get the hype of it, to be honest. Maybe this is like the weird contrarian take I have on it, and it's, me just being way bigger a fan of Odyssey. But I think Odyssey
2 is a better iteration of what they were trying to do with those motion controls.
Yeah, and that makes it a little bit of a bummer that game was not included in 3D All-Stars. It should have been. Maybe it'll eventually appear on Switch 2 one day, but I don't love the motion controls, and even like the weird, you're sort of running around a planet in 3D and it's like rotating around, and the camera view can be like awkward at times.
Camera's not great.
And it like throws off my depth of field, I think, to sometimes try to like jump on a Goomba while you're running around in that weird 3D round space. It just gets confusing at times to me. So I don't love Mario Galaxy right away. I don't know why, but
Odyssey I think is a better game. This was my complaint with Astrobot as well. Astrobot is level based, like Galaxy, where you kind of get jumped out of the level when you're done with it. But I think a better version of that is the Odyssey version, where you're in the world and you're getting moons, or, if it was an Astrobot thing, you're getting bots just on the fly, and you can explore and hang out.
Well, and I have to say, as level-based, like 3D platformers go, like Astrobot is 20 million times better than what I've played so far of Galaxy.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't really the idea of like having different gravities you're playing around with and different like small planets you're running around on is interesting, but I think they did not do it correctly all the way until Galaxy 2. I think Galaxy 1 is a little bit half-baked.
Yeah, and I think some of it is just like, I was never a fan of the Wii. I never owned one myself, so I only had like, I would play at my parents' house because my parents had one, or I would play with my friends in my dorm because some people in my dorm building would have a Wii, and they would be playing like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers or something. But like, to want to like actually sit down and play through like a full Mario or Zelda game where like half the time you're swinging a remote around, like it did not appeal to me. Also, like, I was all in on the 360 that generation, so yeah, Nintendo was just like, even though I grew up with Nintendo, for whatever reason, that console generation was just sort of lost on me. So to sort of try to experience one of those games now on the Switch, especially after you have Odyssey, is just sort of a weird experience, I think. But on that note, do you have any parting wisdom?
I'm going to say check out that Portrait Artist of the Year, because there is also a Landscape Artist of the Year, which I have not watched, and I don't know if that is good or not. But Portrait Art of the Year, I think, is my new fun show to watch when I'm doing stuff. So check it out. It's on Prime.
All right. And on that note, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube Music, and Spotify. Leave it a rating, leave us comments, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.